Hello everyone! I am out here on the back deck with all of the plants that I overwintered in my greenhouse, and I think I took them out about 2 weeks ago, and the greenhouse is now put away. So what I'm going to do today is go over which ones have definitely survived, which ones I'm not sure if they are alive or not, and then the ones that are alive I'm going to do just a little bit of pruning, and I'm going to show you how I fertilize my perennials that are in pots each spring. Also, look what else is not dead. My tulips. I am so excited. They've just started bloom in the last few days. When this bed is full, I might cry tears of joy. But let's go ahead and I'll take you up close on these plants. Most of them are hydrangeas. I do have them ordered from most likely to be alive to least likely to be alive. And oddly enough, that's also the same as their hardiness zones, coldest to warmest. So we'll start over here with these hydrangeas. These three hydrangeas here, 1, 2, 3, are all panicle hydrangeas. Panicle hydrangeas typically are the hardiest of all the hydrangeas. So if you keep losing hydrangeas every year, whether it's in the ground or in a pot, definitely try a panicle hydrangea. These are all hardy down to zone 3. Again, I'm zone 6, so I want to go 2 zones lower, hopefully, to keep plants alive in containers outside over the winter. These are all alive, I think, as you can see by the green that is starting to come off of the stems. I'm so excited. These little buds just started to open. These two here are the same plant. They are tiny quickfire. I have had these now since 2022, so they're probably around their full size, which I think is between 2 to 3 feet. I'm hoping I can keep them in these 2 pots, but if they get a little bit larger this season, I might repot them. And then this one is a year old. This is my Firelight Tidbit. I think this is also around 2 feet wide and tall, but all of these panicle hydrangeas survived perfectly. I also wanted to quickly show you, I've had name tags in my hydrangeas, but I got tired of having to go online and look up things like the hardiness zone, whether it blooms on old or new wood, so I added that to the back. So this is 2 to 3 feet, zone 3, blooms on new wood, it's Hydrangea paniculata, and I got it in 2022. We'll move on to these 2 perennials right here in the terracotta pots. These are the non-hydrangea plants. I think they are one of the few non-hydrangeas that overwintered out here. These are also compact perennials. On the right is Bubbly Wine Weigela, which I have loved Weigela ever since it was growing outside a place we rented. I didn't think I'd be able to have it in my garden because that one was gigantic, but this one I think only gets to about 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide. So that's fantastic. This one probably has the most leaves of any of the plants so far. And then over here on the left, we have Illuminati Sparks Mock Orange. These will flower in the spring, probably late spring, early summer. This one has pink flowers, this one has white flowers, but the foliage is also beautiful. So I don't know exactly where I'm going to put these yet. They were just kind of sitting out here randomly, but I want to find a better spot for them. But I'm so happy that they survived. These are hardy down to zone 4. And these 6 hydrangeas here are my maybes. I do see green growth on some of them. Some of them I don't see it yet, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. All of these, except for this one in the darkest pot, are zone 4. So my plan was to keep everything up here in the greenhouse that was hardy down to zone 4, so 4, 3, 2. Anything that was 5 or above, I moved down to the garage, which was only a couple hydrangeas. This one though, the Tough Stuff Aha, that one is hardy to zone 5, and I did that as a test. That is one that I'm not sure if it is currently alive or not. But none of these are panicle hydrangeas, so they are a little bit less cold tolerant. I think most of them are a hybrid of Macrophylla and Serrata. Some of them are just Macrophylla, but I'll take you in up close to see where there is a little bit of life. So on this one here, you see a little bit of green down at the bottom. This one even has a little bit more green poking through. I think there was another one where I did see some green. The end buds on the zone 5 one have a little bit of green, and then this one here. So there's really 2 right now that I don't see any green on. I'm gonna maybe do a scratch test, but I also don't know if I want to know yet if they're dead or not. So with a scratch test, you basically take your thumbnail or fingernail, nail of your choice, scratch a little bit off of the surface of a stem and see if there's green underneath it. Now some branches might be dead, but not the whole plant. So I do try to scratch a branch that looks a little bit more like it might be alive. So let's do a little scratch here. I don't know if I see green, trying not to assume everything's dead. Let's see if this one is. Oh, you know what? I do see green here. So this stem has green on it. This one doesn't. I'm going to let this sit. In fact, I'm letting all of these sit for at least probably 3 to 4 more weeks to see if I see any signs of life. Just trying to show you the teeniest, tiniest amount of green that is giving me hope. So as of right now, I wouldn't say any are completely dead, which is great. And my success rate has definitely improved year after year. I think, except for my raspberries, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I left uncovered that survived. But again, it can be a combination of the cold weather, or it could be all of the moisture, which kills more plants than the cold weather does, at least in my garden. So all of these were in the greenhouse. I'm going to plan to do the exact same thing next year because my goal, especially now that we have the garage deck, is not to have to carry things from the top deck to the bottom over winter and then back up to the top deck in spring. If it's out here, I want it to stay out here somewhere all year. Now, I also did overwinter some mints, so let me show you those right now. Here are my 8 flavored mints. I'm not a huge fan of just straight mint plants, but flavored mints I love. If you want to get more detailed information on all of these flavors, I will link down that video from last spring. But typically I treat all of my herbs as annuals, whether they're perennials or not. These though, because mint is so hard to kill, I was like, you know what, let's toss it in the greenhouse and see if I kill it or not. And so far, one is showing signs of life, the lemon bergamot mint, which, no offense to it, it wasn't my favorite. It was still good. But this year, instead of reordering all 8, I did just order my favorites. I think I got apple mint, chocolate mint, banana mint, and lavender mint, which should be on the way. So that's exciting. Now, even though none of the rest of them are showing signs of life, someone who's near my area did say that theirs started to show signs of life in May. So again, I'm going to give these all a chance and see what comes back and what doesn't. And then whichever ones do survive, I will be potting up in larger pots because my mint is just not happy in an 8-inch pot. So next we're going to prune and we're going to fertilize the perennials, but we're only going to do this on the perennials that I know are alive. You can do them on all of them, but I want to make sure I'm using the compost on the plants that I know are alive and not ones that are already dead, because that has to come up 3 stories. So if I use the compost on dead plants, I don't want it to be a waste. So anything that is, well, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my definitely alives, maybe a couple of my maybes, I will do this too. And then as far as pruning, I don't prune a lot. I do get asked pruning questions quite a bit, but most of my plants stay so small that I don't really prune much. So what I'm going to do is just come in on these hydrangeas. If there's anything that is dead, any dead branches, anything that looks damaged, anything that's just kind of in the way of where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and prune those. And it's probably going to be a tiny, tiny handful. So I'm going to show you on this tiny quickfire how I prune. Again, this is one of the longest plants that I've had. In fact, I think everything else has just been here a year. These have been here since 2022. So first I'm going to look for anything that's broken, which this is right here. So, oh, that just came off in my hand, which was easy enough. And then I'm also going in and removing anything that's really tiny. Like sometimes there are just tiny little branches that stick off the side, and I don't want them kind of clogging up the middle of the plant. But like I said, I'm not taking much off of here. You can also prune to control the size if you want, but these aren't going to get large enough where I need to worry about that. Let's see, I think there might be a dead branch here. And just giving it a once over. And I think that is good. So here is all that I pruned off that one hydrangea. Again, very, very small job. So now I'm just going to do that to the rest of the plants that I know are for sure alive. Removing anything that is dead. Let's see. Move you. You can also take out a branch if it's growing in a direction you don't want it to. So there's one here that's growing and kind of hitting other branches. So I'm going to pull that one. Do I want to remove this one? No, maybe I'll leave that one for now. I think this looks pretty good. So that's everything I'm going to prune for now. Now, throughout the season, if a branch breaks or I realize a part of the plant is diseased or dead, I will cut it out. But that took like 3 minutes of my time because all of my plants are so small. But now what I'm going to do, which is very important when growing in containers, is fertilize or feed my plants. I do this every spring to every single perennial. I might use a few different things to feed them with, but it's the exact same process. So what I'm going to do for my plants here is I actually do have Hollytone, which does specifically mention hydrangeas on it. So I'm going to use this slow release fertilizer on all of those. The NPK is 434. If those numbers are close to each other, it's a pretty balanced fertilizer, which is what I want to do at the beginning. I just want to feed these a balanced slow release fertilizer. This will break down slowly, so it's not like a liquid fertilizer where I'm just pouring it in and then it'll be used up pretty quickly. This I'll probably apply 2 or 3 more times throughout the season. And then with liquid fertilizer, I do fertilize all of my perennials probably once a month. If you were looking up fertilizing tips on hydrangeas, typically it says use a bloom boosting fertilizer. I think it is March and May, but I do feed mine more often because they are in containers. They're using the nutrients up a lot quicker than if I was growing them in the ground. So that's what I do. I do stop fertilizing for 2 reasons near the end of the season. 1, I get lazy, and 2, I don't want them to put on a bunch of new growth right as winter is coming. That tender new growth can get damaged. So I'm going to sprinkle the granular fertilizer, just following the instructions on the back for how much, and then I just top with a layer of compost. I have used so many different types of compost. I just use whatever I have on hand. So I'm going to use the Coast of Maine. Which one is this? The lobster and crab blend. I feel like my plants are eating better than I do. I'm going to use this tiny quick fire up close as an example of what I do. And then again, I'm going to do the same exact thing for the ones that I know for sure are alive. First, I'm going to take the tag out because I'm going to scratch the fertilizer into the soil. So for Hollytone, it says, for potted plants, established plants, sprinkle 1 teaspoon of Hollytone for every 3 inches of pot diameter. All of my pots are 12 inches in diameter. Some are taller, some are shorter, but the diameter is the same. So I'm going to do 12 divided by 3, which is 4, and I'm going to do 4 teaspoons. Again, I use my eyes as a measuring tool. If you want to use an actual measuring spoon, you can. You also want to apply this to the drip line, which is usually where the outer branches of the plant end, but this is a pot, so it doesn't really follow the drip line. I just put it right around the edges of the pot. And now that it's in there, I'm just going to scratch it in. All right, I think that's good. Now we will just add a bit of compost. Again, just using my hand, I'm just kind of mixing it in to that top layer. And I did the same thing I'm doing right now with these 2 hydrangeas since I have had them again for a couple years. I do the same thing with my raspberries. I've been doing that for 4 years now, and I've never repotted them. They stay in the same pot. These, again, because the pots are a little bit shorter, I might repot them, but I think they still look really good in these. So I'm going to do that exact same process now for all of the rest of my alive plants. And there we go. I have fertilized and pruned my for sure alive plants. I'll keep an eye on the rest of them. I did want to mention, I would water these in right now, but it is actively starting to rain on my head. Now, sometimes when it rains, it is just a light sprinkle, which is not enough to thoroughly water the plant. So, assuming that it is just a light sprinkle, I will come back out and water these. Like I said, I do fertilize throughout the season, both adding some granular a couple times and then liquid fertilizer about once a month. But that is everything. So I'm so excited. There is green growing on my perennials. I feel like as long as you kill fewer things every year in the garden, you're becoming a better gardener. So with that, I will leave you here. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's anything else good that you add to potted perennials, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.